wheel. They're asleep at the steering wheel. If you look at your agreements, that's what you will find. These kind of concessionary agreements. You look at the freight agreement, 64% of the board of directors, which is this membership, said, we don't want that contract. It's not good enough. Guess what? They got it anyway. The UPS people, 53% of them said, we don't want that agreement. It's not good enough. The result was, they rammed it right down everybody's throat. Is that leadership looking out in our interest? Now, maybe I have it all mixed up. Maybe I'm not seeing this picture clear enough. But I'll tell you what I saw clear enough. When that was done, I marched into Southern District Court and I instituted a lawsuit against this international union. That's what I did, because I could not sit back and permit these kinds of things to tear out the very heartbeat of this union, because that's what it's about. When our membership, when our leadership fails to respond to the needs of membership, to their interests, to their pension programs, to their fair ratification approaches, something has to be done. And that's why we went in, and today we have majority rule. That's what can happen when you stand up. That's what I'm trying to do. They're trying to get this union back, to give it back to its members. It's our union. Somebody has told us it doesn't belong to you. You don't have the right to run. You don't have the right to criticize. Well, I pay my dues and have paid my dues, and I will criticize what I believe is wrong. And when we have contracts rammed down our throat, when we have the kinds of things that are going on, the corruption problem swept under the carpet, the needs of our members in pension programs that are not being addressed, I think I have a right to criticize that. And I'm going to here and all over the country. That's my program, and that's what I'm going to be doing. Now, that's all fine and dandy, but the big question is, what's the solution? I have to look back at my track record. I think that's what you have to look back at. Where are you coming from? What have you done? I've negotiated some of the best agreements in this country, agreements that far exceed what our international leadership has done. I've negotiated very decent pension programs, 25 years of service, $1,340, 25 years of service, and out. I've negotiated 30-year pension programs, $1,650, and out. I've negotiated disability pension programs, 10 years of service. I've negotiated 5 years vesting rights, whereas most folks have 10 years. These are the things that I stand up for. Pension programs, grievance panels that make sense, impartially, fair. And I've negotiated how we handle the corruption problem. I've had it in my own local union. And I've dealt with it. When there was a financial officer that had 20 years of service, and when I was told there was a problem, he had one option. And that option, before indictment, was that he had to leave. That's the way you deal with the question of corruption. And why do you do that? What's at stake? My relationship with him? That's not what's at stake. What is at stake is the reputation of this union. What's at stake is the credibility of this union. How that will help in organizing. How that will help in reputation and hands-on, in touch with the members. So he left. And that's the way you deal with it. And that's the way we have to deal with it throughout the country. Thank you. Hard work and leadership. That's what this is about. I don't believe in multiple salaries. I believe in paying good people people, hard-working, honest leadership, good money. I think you have to do that to get the right kind of people on board. I think if you look at what's happened in our union, and you look at the kinds of problems that we have faced, there was no plan in place. When deregulation came into the picture, did anyone have a plan? Was there any strategy on the drawing board as to how we deal with that problem? Or did we just ignore it and hope that it would go away? No one had a plan. We have to have a program. We have to have a plan, a strategy. And how do we get those plans? We have to get the very best we can get. The best is right here. The best is in the Teamster membership. Get those kinds of people on board. Think tank these problems out. Try to develop solutions for the kinds of problems that we're facing. Look at the organizing. How do you go in and organize a shop when on that bulletin board or on that, by that time clock, you will find management material which says that would you like to join this union? If you do, you will be supporting someone's $400,000 to $500,000 salary. Well, how do we organize if we've got those kinds of things going? We have to do something about that. We have to fix the things that's wrong. And that's what I intend to do. Work to fix those things that are wrong. We've got to develop... We have to change our image. We've got to build bridges of relationships with our members. We have to get out there in the trenches, working with the members. We have to let them know that this whole concept of this corporate country club is something of the past. This is a union. And I think lots of folks have forgot that. This is about people, working for people, developing the kinds of programs that can help them get ahead. And I've talked to some of those folks up there in the valley, up in Fremont, and up in Seattle, and they say, geez, Ron, you know, when you talk about the International Union, lots of unions depend on them. But I can tell you that that's not the general feeling anymore. I've talked to a lot of union officials, and they tell me they're not responsive to our needs. They're not solving our problems. Who else do we go to, Ron? Isn't it a shame that the Western Pennsylvania Pension Committee had to go to the outside to get outside auditors, to get an outside group to try to help them solve their pension problems? Isn't it a shame that the Ohio Pension Improvement Committee had to do the same thing? Isn't it a shame New England and New York State had to do the same thing? Why is that? Isn't the union in place there for us to help us try to solve those problems, to negotiate those kind of benefits that are doable? No one's asking for a miracle. They're only asking for fairness. They're only asking for the leadership to go out there and to negotiate the kinds of things that they need, not necessarily want, but need. We need decent pensions. We need a union that's growing. We have to have that bargaining strength to go into employers and say, look, you and I both know we've got to go out there and do the right thing for our members. And as you know, most employers are interested in one thing. That's money. But that's not what we're interested in. At least I don't believe in that. I believe in this union and its membership. How do we approach negotiations and try to get those kind of agreements? Well, you certainly can't approach negotiations in a weakened position. That's just not going to fly. You have to go in there strong. You have to go in there with clout. And you have to go in there knowing the last thing you want to do is have a strike. That's not the way you solve the problems. It may be at the very end that's what develops because you couldn't reach an agreement, you couldn't get the things you need for your members. But before you do that, don't you have a strategy? Don't you sit down and talk to your members and get some idea of what they want? I mean, don't we ever consult them? Don't we ever communicate with them? If you talk to most UPS people today, and I've talked to them right up and down the coast, they don't know what's going